Welcome to this try it on your own challenge to the if statement conditional tutorial. Now, of course, I know you've already tried these on your own and you're just kind of comparing what you messed around with what I messed around with, because again, doing these on your own is where you're really going to make the money learning. So the first challenge was adjust the value of the threshold variable and see what happens. So that should be easy enough. So let's go ahead and go to our Arduino sketch. We'll come down to the threshold variable, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change that to 800. Okay, so it was 400. I'm going to change it to 800. I'm going to go ahead and verify and upload that, and then I'm going to do a serial monitor. Okay, so it's at 700. You can see from the readout there my LED is off, and then as I get past 800 it turns on. So basically, I've just shifted that threshold. That's kind of what we expected, nothing crazy there, but very easy to move. So in the spirit of trying to break things, let's go ahead. I'm curious what happens if we make that 1800. Okay, let's go ahead and upload this. Okay, so I've made it 1800. Well, what's my prediction? Well, my prediction is kind of goes along with the comments they have here. It says an arbitrary threshold level that's in the range of the analog input. Well, what's the analog input range? Well, we know it's from 0 to 1023, and this value I set, that's above that range. So if we come down to our condition says analog value greater than threshold. So if we know the greatest analog value is going to get to is 1023, yet we set our threshold at 1800, that means analog value is never going to be greater than threshold. So that would mean that this code would never get written. So digital rate LED bin high would never get written, or executed rather, and that default else statement would always get executed. So that would mean LED pin low, so the LED should never come on. That's my prediction. And guess what? My LED is dark, and no matter how far left or right I turn my potentiometer, it doesn't come on. And let me go ahead and bring up the serial monitor window, and you can see here's that full range. So I come all the way down, nothing. I'll go all the way up, and I don't get anything on my LED. Okay, so what if we set that right at the limit? What if we set it at 1023? Let's go ahead and upload that. And what's our prediction this time? Well, let's come back down to the condition. So analog value, that the highest that can get is 1023. Threshold, I'm setting that at 1023. Now what's important is we look at that comparison operator. It says greater than. So analog value might be equal to threshold, but it's not equal to or greater than, it's just greater than, okay? So my prediction is, again, this is never going to get met, and digital write, it's always going to write it low because that else catch-all statement is going to get executed. So I went ahead and I did do the upload now serial monitor, and my LED, no matter how far I swing it, go all the way up, it never turns on. Okay, so we were right there. That makes sense. Okay, now what about if we set it at 0? What happens at 0? Let's go ahead and upload that. What is my hypothesis at 0? So if I have analog value, that can be from 0 to 1023. If threshold is 0, so anytime this is greater than 0, then this code is going to get written. So that would mean the only time the LED that this wouldn't get executed is when analog value is equal to 0. So my LED should be on all the time. So I'll go ahead and serial monitor. My LED is already on, and I'm just going to keep going all the way down here. LED is still on, past 400, still on, still on. There it is. It finally turns off when I get all the way to the left turn of my potentiometer, and I'm at 0. Okay, so that made sense. All right, so the takeaway here is that you really need to take a close look at the condition that you set. If you're finding that the only output of your circuit is that catch-all else statement, if that's the only code that's getting executed, it could be that the condition you set is either too restrictive or it's not catching the values like you want it to. So it's always good to take a second look at that if statement conditional. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the next challenge. So the next challenge is write an additional if statement to turn on the LED when the analog value variable is less than 100. So the LED should turn on when analog value is greater than 400 and when it's less than 100. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump at the code. Now there's, like everything, there's always a couple ways to do something. I'm going to do it the way that I think is the clearest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another threshold variable. Okay, so here is, I just copied that one up there. I'm going to paste it right under here, and I'm going to call it threshold low. And I'm going to set the first threshold back to 400, and I'm going to set this threshold at 100. And then I'm going to say an arbitrary low threshold. Okay, so I've got a new threshold called threshold low. Now I'm going to come down here after my first if statement, and I'm going to write a new if statement. So I'm going to say if, open parenthesis, what's my condition? Well, my condition is analog value be less than threshold low. And what do I want to happen? Well, I want to turn the LED on, so I'm just going to copy that code, paste it there, and close my curly bracket. So let's think about this for a second. So if my analog value up at this first statement, if it's greater than the first threshold, which is 400, it's going to turn it on. It's going to apply high voltage to pin 13. Otherwise, it's going to write it low. Well, then down here, it's going to say, well, hey, is that analog value less than threshold low? Is it less than 100? Well, go ahead and turn that LED high anyway. So let's go ahead and upload it, and then let's do a serial monitor. Okay, so it's down at 0. My LED is on. I'm going to turn it. Okay, I'm in this kind of dead area. My LED is off, and then I get past 400, and my LED comes back on. So I've got this interesting variability as I turn my potentiometer. Okay, and that pretty much closes up this try it on yourself challenge. The takeaway here is that there is a lot of stuff you can do with the if-else statement, and it can be a lot of fun to play around with. But they can be tricky if you don't pay a lot of attention to that condition. Okay, and then another good thing you should do is look at the comparison operators on the Arduino website. There's a lot of comparison operators. They're all very useful, like equal to or greater than, less than or equal to, all those type of things. So it's a good idea to go ahead and check those out. All right, well, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Have an awesome day, and I will see you at the next tutorial.